What would you do if a single moment of rage cost you everything? In the small town of Willow Creek, where the hum of dirt bikes echoed through the summer air, a single act of spite set off a chain of events that would unravel lives. This is the story of a woman named Karen, a boy named Eli, and a family caught in the crossfire of pride, vengeance, and justice. It was a blistering July afternoon in 2023, the kind where the heat shimmered off the asphalt and the cicadas sang louder than your thoughts. Eli, my younger brother, was 16, all gangly limbs and untamed dreams. His dirt bike, a scratched-up Yamaha he'd saved for 2 summers to buy, was his pride and joy. He'd race it down the dirt trails behind our house, kicking up clouds of dust, his laughter trailing like a comet's tail. Our neighborhood, a quiet cul-de-sac of modest homes, was usually peaceful until Karen moved in. Karen was in her late 40s with a sharp tongue and a sharper glare. She'd bought the house next door, a pristine 2-story with a manicured lawn that screamed, "Don't step on my grass." From day one, she made it clear she despised the noise of Eli's bike. "It's a menace," she'd shout over the fence, her voice slicing through the air. "Keep that thing quiet, or I'll call the cops." Eli, being the polite kid he was, tried to compromise. He'd ride only in the late afternoons, sticking to the trails far from her property. But Karen wasn't interested in compromise. She wanted control. One Saturday, Eli was tinkering with his bike in our driveway, the engine off, just polishing the handlebars. I was inside, helping Mom with dinner, when I heard a commotion. Through the window, I saw Karen storming across her lawn, her face red as a sunburn. Eli stood frozen, wrench in hand, as she loomed over him. "You little punk," she hissed. "I told you to stop with that bike." Before Eli could respond, she shoved the bike hard, sending it crashing to the ground. The kickstand snapped, and the mirror cracked against the pavement. But she didn't stop there. In her fury, she grabbed Eli's arm, twisting it as she screamed about respect and noise pollution. Eli yelped, stumbling back, his wrist already bruising. I bolted outside, my heart pounding. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, pulling Eli behind me. Karen turned her venom on me, her eyes blazing. "You kids think you run this place? I'll teach you a lesson." She stormed back to her house, leaving Eli shaken and the bike in ruins. That night, Mom took Eli to urgent care. His wrist was sprained, not broken, but the doctor's words lingered. "This could have been worse. We could have let it go. Maybe we should have." But Eli's bike wasn't just a bike, it was his freedom. His escape from a world that often felt too heavy for a kid his age. Mom, a single parent who worked double shifts at the diner, was furious but cautious. "We can't afford a fight with her," she said, her voice weary. But I couldn't let it slide. Karen had crossed a line and I wanted justice. Enter Marcus, our neighbor from across the street. Marcus was a quiet man in his 60s, a retired mechanic who'd lived in Willow Creek his whole life. He'd seen the whole thing from his porch, his old Polaroid camera in hand. "I got pictures," he said, his voice low but steady. "That woman's trouble. Always has been." Marcus wasn't just a bystander. He had a story of his own. Years ago, Karen had lived in Willow Creek briefly before moving away. Back then, she'd bullied half the town, petty complaints, threats, even a lawsuit against a local shop for emotional distress over a parking dispute. She'd left a trail of bad blood, and now she was back, picking fights like nothing had changed. Marcus's photos were a game changer. They showed Karen's rage, her hand on Eli's arm, the bike toppling. We took them to a lawyer, Ms. Clara Evans, a no-nonsense woman who'd grown up in Willow Creek and knew Karen's history. "This isn't just property damage," Clara said, her eyes narrowing. "This is assault, and we're going to make her pay." Mom hesitated, worried about the cost, but Clara offered to take the case pro bono. "Some people need to learn," she said, "and Karen's one of them." The lawsuit was filed. Assault, battery, and property damage. Karen's response was a masterclass in deflection. She claimed Eli had provoked her, that the bike was a public nuisance, and that she'd acted in self-defense. Her lawyer, A slick city type named Greg painted her as a victim of rowdy teens terrorizing her quiet life. But the evidence was damning. Marcus's photos, Eli's medical report, and even a neighbor's security footage showing Karen's tirade built a case she couldn't wriggle out of. The trial was a spectacle. Willow Creek's courthouse, usually sleepy, buzzed with locals eager to see Karen face the music. Eli took the stand, his voice steady despite his nerves, recounting the fear he'd felt as Karen loomed over him. I watched Karen's face, expecting remorse, but all I saw was defiance. She whispered to Greg, her lips curled in a sneer, as if she believed she'd win. Then came Marcus's testimony. He didn't just bring photos, he brought history. He recounted Karen's past in Willow Creek, her petty lawsuits, her threats to neighbors, her habit of intimidating anyone who crossed her. The courtroom murmured. Karen's facade cracked, her eyes darting as Marcus spoke. The twist came when Clara called an unexpected witness. Sophie, a barista at the local coffee shop. Sophie was shy, barely 20, with no connection to our family. But she'd overheard Karen bragging at the shop about teaching that kid a lesson. Sophie's testimony was a bombshell. She described Karen's glee, her boast that she'd put those brats in their place. The jury's faces hardened. Karen's lawyer scrambled, but the damage was done. Sophie's words painted Karen not as a victim, but as a bully reveling in her power. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. Karen was found guilty of assault and property damage. The judge ordered her to pay $10,000 for Eli's bike and medical bills, plus $60,000 in court fees and punitive damages, a staggering $70,000. The courtroom erupted in whispers as Karen sat stone-faced, her hands clenched. For a moment I felt triumph. Justice had been served. Eli's bike could be replaced, his wrist would heal, and Karen had finally faced consequences. But the victory was hollow. A month later, we learned Karen had filed for bankruptcy. She'd lost her job as a real estate agent, her reputation in tatters. Her house went into foreclosure, and she moved away, leaving behind a for sale sign and a neighborhood that breathed easier without her. Eli, though, wasn't the same. The trial had drained him, the memory of Karen's grip on his arm lingering like a bruise that wouldn't fade. He stopped riding, his new bike gathering dust in the garage. "It doesn't feel the same," he'd say, his eyes distant. "Mom tried to keep us grounded, but I saw the toll it took on her late nights worrying about bills, about Eli's quiet moods. I thought justice would heal us, but it left scars instead." Karen's downfall didn't erase the fear in Eli's eyes or the weight on Mom's shoulders. It didn't bring back the kid who laughed as he raced through the trails. It just left us all a little broken, standing in the wreckage of a fight we hadn't started. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I found Marcus on his porch, sipping coffee. "You think it was worth it?" I asked. He looked at me, his eyes heavy with years of seeing too much. "Sometimes justice costs more than money," he said. "But you did what you had to. For Eli." I nodded, but the words stung. We'd won the case, but lost something harder to name. In Willow Creek, the trails are quiet now. The cicadas still sing, but Eli's laughter doesn't echo anymore. Karen's gone, her house empty, her story a cautionary tale whispered over coffee. And us? We're still here, picking up the pieces, learning that sometimes, even when you win, you lose. ND.